and you've tuned in to the Monica Branch Show. And I'm super excited to be back in my office. I had some time this year going on some really cool trips to the Arnold Classic, and then I went to the LA Fit Expo. And as you've been seeing, we've been doing some of these awesome interviews that I had at both locations. It was really fun to be on the road, interacting with fans, interacting with my friends from the industry, and just reconnecting with people I hadn't seen in a long time. So it felt good to be out, but it also feels great to be back in the office and getting to talk to awesome people today. As you know, the Monica Branch Show has been focused on a lot of the legendary athletes in the bodybuilding and fitness community. I've had opportunities to talk to Phil Heath, Flex Wheeler, Linda Murray, Ronnie Coleman, Whitney Jones. I mean, it just goes on and on because we've been doing this now for over 2 years. So really excited of all the great interviews. But some of the other interviews, besides the legendary athletes, have been with products that I've used. I want you to, because I always want to share. I want to share the things that have been a help for me, a success for me, have something to do with my, my life. So with that, I always like to bring in the different people that represent the lines. I brought in different nutritional gurus. I've just really tried to bring in a lot of different people here to the Monica Branch Show. So you, the viewer, can learn more, have access to more, and hear more about the things that have helped me stay young at heart and young in age up to this point. Because now it's been 30 years in the industry for me. So it's pretty crazy. So with that said, and at the Arnold, I had a chance to meet somebody through Flex Wheeler, who was a friend of mine from back in the 90s. You guys probably know legendary IFBB professional bodybuilder Flex Wheeler. And I got a chance to meet someone that he's been working with personally and hear about this awesome product. And since the Arnold, I've been using this product. So I can't wait to share with you about the product. So without any further ado, Claudia, would you please bring in Farad Darva? Hey, Farad.
Hey, Monica, how are you?
I'm good. It's so exciting to get to talk about things that have made a difference in our lives. And you, as the founder and CEO of a healthcare international research company, I can't wait to hear what that entails. And I know you've had quite an interesting life. You have.
I have, yeah. I know what you're going
to say. We meet somebody, and then you just I met you, and I got to know about the product. But then it's like, oh well, there's more to you than just this product that all of a sudden now I'm getting to know about. So over these months, it's been fun to get to know you.
You too.
Yeah. So will you?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for honestly.
I'm so glad to have you here. I know we've been talking about this for a while to get you on, and now it's a great timing because of the products and how they're coming out in the U.S. and people will have access to them. But before that, will you please share about your diverse background between the boy band, all the different locations you've lived, and the 17 years in the British Army? Because I do have a father who's third generation West Point graduate, so Army background, and my dad Green Beret as well. So I know that about you. Yeah, and I know if you and my dad got to talk, y'all would probably be talking for hours about the Green Beret and the Army and all the things. So I'm going to quit talking so I can hear from you.
Yeah, no problems. Well, yeah, as you said, I have a diverse background. I was born in England and I moved to Ireland, Dublin, when I was 11. Because my dad's job, he was an airline pilot, and we went over there to live. And I kind of grew up my formative years schooling in Ireland, and I always really enjoyed, singing, and I was kind of into breakdancing and that kind of stuff. So, yes, I I sacked off university, I dropped out of college, and I joined a boy band. And you know what? We were three mates. We knew each other from school, and I'm not sure how talented we were. We all had really good physiques. We danced well, and we could mime really well. We could, singing the dance routines were so hectic that you could never really keep in tune. So we always just kind of mind it. And but we did do it in the studio. We could actually hold a tune, and I enjoyed it. It was great. I did it for a couple of years. And singing was my passion. It really was. I left the band. I had a couple of bands, and yet we released some singles. And it's kind of local, only small in kind of Ireland and England, you know. And I when that kind of finished, I continued on, and singing's always just been a bit of a passion of mine. And I was doing some gigs around the UK and doing okay, just like working the clubs and stuff. And I saw an advert when I went to go and watch a movie, and it was for the Royal Marine Commandos, which is a British naval infantry unit. And I thought to myself, it said 99.99% need not apply. And I thought to myself, oh, I'll have some of that. So, I ended up actually, I was unable to join them because I was too old. They just have a cut-off list. I was 26 and I was 27 at the time. So I basically found out that you can join the army and go off and do your commando course and get your Green Beret. So that's exactly what I did. So I joined the army, and then I ended up going off and doing a tour with 3 Commando Brigade. I did a couple of tours of Afghan, and 16 and a half years, 17 years later, I retired as a major about a year ago to go full time with the company that I have now, which is why we're here talking today about the company that I formed and the brand that I have and the product that we've got.
All right. So before we dive into that, I just have a couple questions because I'm someone who loves to learn things. So one question is your accent from Ireland, or is it from England, or is it just
my accent? I'm like a chameleon, so my accent changes. But if I spend any time in America, I'd start getting much softer R's, as it does. My Irish accent comes out when I've had a few beers. I'm not going to lie. I start talking like this when I've had a few beers. So, it just it changes. So at the moment, I'd call this, a British accent,
Okay.
And there's a tinge of, depending on the on the amount of on the beers that have been consumed, my accent does change. Or if I'm talking to friends, I mean, I'm sure other people do this. You're on the phone to friends from an area you don't, and all of a sudden your accent changes. My children, they know when I'm talking to my best friend because they're like, "Daddy, why are you talking funny with Uncle Francis?" Because he's Irish and my accent comes back.
That's fun. Okay, well, I would love to see you move to a very deep part of South Texas where that big Texas drawl comes out. I think that would be
how y'all doing? I could do that. I reckon
it would be really fun to see you mold into this British Ireland Texans accent.
I'm a huge fan of Gas Monkey Garage, so I watch. I could pick it up pretty quickly.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, and then let's see a couple other questions about the boy band. So you mentioned something about miming. Is that lip syncing? Is that
basically lip syncing? It was,
I always wondered, how do you move like that and still be able to sing? And never
you don't.
You don't.
You don't. You pretend. You pre-record it and you do. And anyone that says that they don't, that's most of the time you do that. There are some times when you can, but if you've got we had really energetic routines, and we were breakdancing as well. So we were like head spinning and drilling and all that kind of stuff. Oh, I can't believe you fished that up. I was a lot thinner back then. I was a lot thinner and a lot more toned. So, stop it, Monica. Give us a break.
It's Claudia's fault. This must be your, can you still do that look?
The Magnum look, isn't that what it was called?
Yes, it's like
Magnum
blue,
look.
blue
It's in there somewhere.
That's fun. All right, well, let's dive in because I know we have some really cool stuff to talk about here. So what can you say propelled you into this line of work?
So simply put, it was my service. Having done 17 years in the army, and specifically towards the latter part when I'd done a couple of active tours in Afghanistan, and I'd done the commando course, and I'd put my body through quite a bit, and I was playing rugby as well. And in the army's fantastic. The British Army's fantastic for supporting sport. It's just one, and I think a lot of armies do that. It's how you bond together. Outside of doing exercise or operations or anything else. So, and I kind of realized that not only do I wake up every single day and something is aching and hurting and everything else, but I also realized that I was actually getting quite dependent on taking anti-inflammatories before I actually went and did anything. So I was like popping ibuprofen before playing a game or before going on a long march.
So bad for your liver.
Yeah, exactly. And taken like, paracetamol, or I may have had some kind of like, some cocodamol left over from an injury I had or something. I'd take, because it was, I was not, it was hurting. And I then noticed that actually I wasn't the only one doing this. And, people were just, trying to get through. And I just had this thing where I thought, this is not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. This cannot be the way forward. And I had, tried bathing myself in various other kind of, topicals or whatever else to try and alleviate, aches and strains. And I just couldn't really get anything. So what happened was whilst this was happening, my best friend's, his mother-in-law, his wife's mum, she got cancer. And she did not want to go down the route of having chemotherapy, just did not want to do that. She's from the Czech Republic, kind of, and has that very staunch Eastern European kind of attitude of, no, I'm not, I don't want to do that. So they were looking at alternative medicines, alternative therapies of what was available. And cannabis kept coming up from people that were utilizing it for things like MS, and people that were suffering from fibromyalgia and various other things that they started using it for. So, but she didn't want to, inhale it or anything else. So they were, and what we actually was talking to at the same time, and he was saying, look, this plant is amazing. There's so many things inside it, but there's this one ingredient called, CBD, that's kind of like a natural anti-inflammatory. And basically I said to him, look, I think you might have something here. So she was using it on her, rubbing it into her skin. Her husband was rubbing it into her back and rubbing it into her skin. And she was absorbing it through the skin. And basically, I said to him, look, I think you really got something here, So we kind of decided back then, and this was going about 8 years ago, that actually there could be something really, really good here. But if we're going to do it, we've got to do it properly. We've got to do the right research. We've got to get, regulatory compliant. We've got to, because that scene of CBD was kind of kicking off at the time. So basically, that was about 8 years ago, and I decided that, what, I'm going to finish my time in the army, and I'm going to write a plan, and I'm going to leave in 2020, and I'm going to start my company the year before, and then continue on. And basically, what happened was I said, okay, let's do this, and here I am now, and I've got these products that have been really heavily researched. I mean, I really looked into it. If I was going to give up a career in the army as an officer, and I wasn't doing too badly, I'm not going to blow my own flute, but I was doing okay. I was doing well, and I'm going to give all this up and walk away from a pension and walk away from promotion, and to do a startup with my own money and just bury it in and try and get it going. I've got to do it for something I believe in. And, I gave these gels to my mum, who was in a car crash like about 20 years ago. And she's, you could, if you were to shake her, she would rattle. She's on that many pills. And she just stopped taking them. She was like, hey, what is this? I don't need to be so dependent on it. And it was from there that it started going. And here we are now, having got some really, really good products to facilitate those aching muscles and joints. And it's natural, and it's from a plant that's very, very natural. And it's been a lot of research and development into it, which I can go into. And yeah, that's what's allowed me to get to this stage where I'm here talking to the wonderful Monica Brandt on her show about it,
Just want to do a little short video about hemp CBD. As I said before, this is really personal. There's no way that I can really fake this, and I'm not going to fake it because I'm severely in pain. It really works. It really works for me. It really works for everyone else who's tried it. And I am very confident that it will help you also. So here it is, and I'm proud to present it to you.
Well, there's so much there. And, I don't know a lot about it. I grew up with my family, very traditional, like marijuana is bad and it's for bad people. And, so I never, and even to this day, I just really haven't done a lot of research. I've had a lot of people come to me with CBD and this, that, and the other, right? It flooded. And I just really have always turned it away because I didn't know enough about it. And then I don't know what the laws are. And all of this, different states have got different stuff now. And it's like, so I honestly, I feel like I'm kind of like a 5-year-old with the information that I do know about it. And it's jaded.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one.
Right?
There's a lot of people out there who
So
who think the same.
can you explain, just for people like me, the cannabis? Is that the actual title for the plant?
Yeah. So here's the funny thing about it.
You need,
and
like,
I was the same.
Figures. You need like figurines.
I'm absolutely the same, because I mean, I've come from an army background where, like, I told people I was leaving to start a CBD company, and they're like, "Isn't that drugs? Like, have you become a drug dealer? Like, that type of," and they had absolutely no idea. But what you've got to remember is that, the hemp plant has lots of different, chemicals and entities inside of it. Okay. And CBD is only one of them. Okay, yes, there is an element of, and you see, so the hemp, if we start with this, okay, the hemp plant, the cannabis plant, hemp plant, okay, that's got about 400 odd different chemicals inside it that we can read. I mean, it's got thousands of different cannabinoids. It's got about 4 that you can that we understand. And now that's about 113 that we can really quantify and know what they are. And they're things like cannabidiol acid, or CBD as it's shortened, or THC, which people have probably heard about, which can have the psychoactive effect, and that's what kind of gets you high.
So when people are smoking or chewing,
exactly,
that's from THC.
Exactly, and what it is people. There is a recreational use to the hemp plant. Of course there is, because people use it recreationally and they get high and they utilize it. And part of the reaction is that they get that psychoactive effect. But there's many chemicals inside that plant. And if you can isolate them, and if you can utilize the ones that you want, and we specifically wanted CBD, or cannabidiol acid, because that is an anti-inflammatory effect. But the reason we wanted that is I did my homework at this and had a look into it. You've got to bear in mind, I always say this to people, if you've ever taken a painkiller, like an opioid painkiller, that is made from the same plant that makes heroin. It's the poppy plant. Now, does that mean that you are a drug addict? No, it's not. It's just there's an element of that plant that can be utilized for that recreational use. And there's the same with the hemp plant. But when you remove that and you focus solely on what we wanted to do, then you alleviate and you remove all of that recreational use. And that's fine. That's just not what I wanted to do, because most people don't understand the whole background of where this all came from. And if you allow me to tell you, it all started and originated actually with regards to the research in Europe. So for about 60 years, the Czech Republic have been researching and developing this. And in fact, the products and hemp itself and CBD was first discovered, or the healing effects of CBD was actually first discovered in Czechoslovakia in 1955 by someone called Professor Jan Kabalik. And he kind of laid the foundations into that there's something inside this plant that's pretty good. And he kind of compelled his colleagues to look into this. And a few years later, he basically laid the scientific basics into the research for this. And then there was a paper released in about 1963 by a professor called František Satnové, I think his name was, and a chemist as well. And they basically wrote down what cannabidiol acid was. They basically quantified the absolute configuration for what is now known as CBD and THC. Okay. So the Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic, the Czechs have had this for many, many years, and they research and they study it like any university in America or Britain studies horticulture or anything like that. It's perfectly acceptable to study cannabinoids and cannabis. So basically, I was like, well, if these people are the ones that have discovered it, and these are the ones that have been researching it for 60 years, then I want to make sure that if I'm getting involved and what I want to do, it's backed by that 60 years of science. And that's kind of where we're sitting now. The products that we have, they are regulated, they're regulatory compliant. We have them registered as legal topicals. And we've done this because we were able to submit a dossier that demonstrated not just the efficacy of the products, but also the history and the data and the R&D that these have been created on. Over 60 years of R&D they sat on. We've used that, and all the formulators and the scientists that make our products, they have studied this for their entire. That's what they do. That's their career. So when you've got someone with that kind of subject matter expertise and knowledge, that what you've got is absolutely first class and world leading.
I love it. So can you say this or not, or maybe I'm like off, but like there's so many other CBD products out there. What makes this one unique? Is it that you have that research?
Yeah.
Tech,
not just that, because CBD is really good. It's an anti-inflammatory. There's lots of studies out there to demonstrate that it has great anti-inflammatory effects, and it's also very good for skin and body homeostasis. Because we have inside of us an endocannabinoid system. It's part of our central nervous system. We have CB1 and CB2 receptors, and they know exactly what to do once with cannabinoids. And put it this way, we naturally create them. The first breast milk that you had from your mother had cannabinoids in it. Okay. And when you hear that people use it recreationally, they get quite hungry, they get the munchies, right? Yeah. Well, that hunger trigger, it's very similar to a baby to trigger for milk because of the cannabinoids. It's that similar type of that's inside of you is triggered.
Interesting.
Hemp used to grow naturally, and it would be amongst the grass. This is going hundreds of thousands of years ago, but it was there. So when animals would consume grass, they would also consume the cannabis, the hemp plant within it as well. But then when you kill and hunt the animal and then you eat the animal's meat or you drink the animal's milk, you're getting the cannabinoids as well. So your body knows what to do with it. So, but due to prohibition and we've moved on, et cetera, was made, the cannabis plant was made illegal, then it doesn't happen. But since then, CBD has been as a chemical, as an ingredient of the hemp plant, has been removed. The United Nations took it off of the kind of drugs list, as they call it. It was removed, that it's no longer considered to be a narcotic. And the World Anti-Doping Association, WADA, they've removed that off their restricted items list. So you can use CBD. It's perfectly legal and perfectly normal. The problems you have is, how do you take just the CBD and not have the other stuff? And if you then, and that's where our formulation and scientists are very, very, very good at. And what we wanted to do was to use an isolate so that we knew that's what we were going to get. And there's lots of arguments that people say, but if you don't have the other cannabinoids, you're missing out on the entourage effect of having it all. And that's all well and good. And there are elements of that are true, but we wanted to focus solely on the CBD and the delivery system. You see, there's lots of products out there, but if you have a product that delivers better than others, then actually, you can get to where you need to be. And that's why ours are very, very good. They're not just unique because of the science behind them, is, the very utilizing the subject matter expertise and studies of the very people that discovered the healing effects, but also our delivery system. And look, Monica, I don't have to, you've used it. Okay. So know that when you rub it in, it just works, right?
It evaporates. Well, not evaporates, but it seeps.
It penetrates the skin. That's it. So it doesn't leave that residue. It doesn't leave you that residue that a lot of the stuff you get. And because it doesn't leave the residue, we don't have to use, like you said, you'll see with a lot of CBD products, it's like 500, 1,000 milligrams. Like there's loads of CBD in it. Your body can only absorb so much. If you've got a much better delivery system, you don't have to have so much of the CBD. And it's not just CBD. That's the main thing to really get across here. It's how the CBD works with all the other ingredients at a molecular level. Our products were created at a molecular level using in vitro robotic arm throughput machine testing. So we've started at the very, very bottom brick, if you want to call it that. And we've built up. And that's why the products work so well. It's how the CBD works with everything else. It's not a magic wand, but if you know how to utilize it with other things, it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, so I used, and I kind of go back and forth, and I know we'll talk about the products here in a second, but I go back and forth between the hot and cold. So right now I feel the little cool one on me. You kind of feel the after effects. It's kind of nice. Like, oh, yeah. Because all the horseback riding I'm doing nowadays has really,
for sure.
I've ridden horses my whole life, but because I'm riding so much now, and the way we ride for our performance horses, they are show horses. So it's a lot of leg, a lot of hamstring, and then it kind of gets into the obliques and the hip flexors and the psoas. So I'm, and then the low back starts kind of aching. So I kind of put front and back on myself.
Yeah. And it'd be so bad if you were just going, and pop in a couple of pills. You don't want to do that. You need something. People want something that's and if COVID and the last couple of years has taught us anything, it's that people are taking their health and well-being a little bit more seriously than they did previously.
Right.
And therefore, you've got to have something out there that's a little bit more natural, that people can believe in, that they understand why. I mean, part of what we're doing and what I want to do is the educational piece. It's not just on here to promote a product, it's to promote an idea as well. You know, we are very much trying to lead that conversation to make people realize it's not what you think it is. There is something else to it.